Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome back to the session. To curb the repercussions of this global pandemic in our nation, a lockdown was imposed and thus began the work from home journey in India. It became imperative for the companies to shift their workplaces to virtual workplaces. Work from home seemed to be a privilege at first, but then the perspectives have changed. This leaves us with a question as to is leading without supervision the way to go in the new world? To throw light on this question, let us invite the moderator for our panel discussion themed Leading Without Supervision, Ms. Shilpi Chugh, Head of HR, Dyson, India. Ms. Shilpi has spent over 15 years in a variety of roles in HR across varied companies. She has recently been recognized by People's Business and Economic Times as 35 young HR leaders in India. We welcome you for the session, Ms. Shilpi, and request you to please introduce the panelists and take the session forward.
Thank you, Shloka. Welcome, everyone. It's really my pleasure to be a part of the conference NHRDM. And really, I see some very interesting topics, very futuristic, strategic topics of discussion. So, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be moderating one of the very pertinent topics which has been alive with us for the last 2 years, to say the least, leading without seeing. And not just purely in the CHRO or the HR leads fraternity, but this has been a hot topic of discussion, arguably along with well being, in all the CEO discussions and all the leaders' discussions in the last couple of years. Everything that we knew about leadership and the fundamental of leadership have been challenged, starting from just the basic human connect and the people connect. Empathy, compassion, the need for that emerged as the number one priority for all leaders and across the world, cut across all geographies, and really establishing that in a virtual world. So a lot of things really got challenged in the last couple years, as we knew, and absolutely unprecedented times that we have seen. And as we even look forward, in some shape or form, in some capacity, we do see the hybrid mode of working, the virtual mode of connecting with people in some way or the other that's going to continue. And that is where we are today in the panel discussion with a very, very esteemed panel that we have for generating some collective wisdom, talking about what are some of the leadership traits that we really need to operate in this hybrid world. What is the role that a technology is going to play? Really acting as an enabler, not as a deterrent in the leadership process, but really a technological role, technological play. What is the role of HR and how is that going to shape? So, really uncovering some of these really hot, burning topics that we have asked ourselves in the last couple years for the future as we are looking forward to this new way of working. And I'm very happy, very, very privileged to introduce my panel, which is a very, very esteemed panel, starting with Dr. Chandrama Banerjee. She is the director, co-founder of Unigrow Solutions Private Limited, working in the areas of HR technology and supply chain. She has depth of expertise, over 20 years of diverse corporate experience in senior leadership positions. She's also the independent director in the board of a private sector organization and also serving as a professional in the professional bodies like CMA, CII, ISABS, and of course NHRDM. Welcome, Dr. Chandrama. Looking forward to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Shilpi.
My other panelist, Mr. Thiru Nagarajan. Welcome, Mr. Thiru. He is the Vice President and Head of HR for IBM India and South Asia. With over 20 years of expertise and experience in HR across several leadership positions in India and across the world, he has deep expertise in talent strategy, reimagining and delivering digital HR solutions, and driving large scale cultural transformations. Dr. Thiru, welcome. Welcome for the panel discussion. And my last panelist, Mr. Shrikant. He's the global talent leader at Ernst& Young Global Delivery Services. In his role, Shri is leading complete reimagination of talent initiative for EY Global Delivery Services. He has over 25 years of experience in HR and business transformations, right from HR management, people supply chain management, organization development, and technology leadership. He's a certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt and an Agile coach. Welcome, Shri. Welcome to the conversation today. Okay, so jumping right in, I would like to invite Dr. Chandrama for kickstarting the conversation. Dr. Chandrama, what are your views on the fundamental leadership traits that are required in leading in this hybrid world and the virtual environment that we are in today and in future?
Thanks, Shilpi. Good afternoon to one and all. Shilpi, what I think is that, see, as we all know, in the last 2 years, everything has got a virtual face. What we are doing today, even a seminar like this, we couldn't even imagine in 2018-19 the way we are doing today, right? So everything has a virtual face, and tomorrow is not going to be any different. Okay, maybe some industries will embrace it more, hybrid working, remote working. Some industries will do it less, but I see it happening everywhere across all my clients, across other organizations, whether it's a IT company, tech company, or it's a manufacturing, a large or a medium scale. So tomorrow is never going to be what it was in 2018-19. So it's all about embracing hybrid, embracing remote the way it is for respective companies. So we have seen in the last 2 years every organization has gone a big way into digital, in a very very big way. And they have invested everything into being digital, and they have trained people, and they have done everything. But what I get to see, Shilpi, is that, see, IT, technology is an enabler. Okay. Somewhere not focused so much on the people for whom we are doing this. Okay. End of the day, we are dealing with people, we working with people. So we need to be there for them, need to listen to them, need to be attentive, need to be sincere, need to be empathetic, compassionate, so on and so forth. These are the leadership traits today we are talking about. Because see, today, nothing is binary anymore. The pandemic has taught us a very different thing. And tomorrow, whether it's pandemic or no pandemic, it's going to be the same. What I'm trying to say, nothing is binary. Everybody has a story to tell. And as leaders, we need to be available to listen to that carefully and to be with that person. If I'm as a person going through some kind of trauma, some difficulty, whatever it is, how is my leader dealing with me at that point in time? It's the moment of truth for me.
Absolutely.
Everything else is a big bhashan. That's the moment of truth, right? So today, I would say we need to focus a lot more on the basic human values. Not that it was not important yesterday, but today it's a lot more important. There are people, who are blessed with these traits. They are really blessed leaders. Those, for some people, it comes very, very naturally. Things like, all I'm talking about is humanity driven leadership. That's all I'm talking about. Very simple thing, very fundamental things like listening to people intently, being sincere, being genuine, be empathetic, be compassionate. Very fundamental human values which we are talking about. Nothing so great, nothing about the technology part of it. But end of the day, we are working with people, and we need to be available with people. And particularly when we are in hybrid remote mode, which we all understand there's a trust deficit. In this kind of situation, it's very difficult to understand the person, make that person understand that what does the organization want from him, and to preserve the trust. And this is the main thing. There is a trust deficit which will be a lot more prominent in the days to come. So as leaders, we need to be very, very careful about that. Extremely careful. Okay. And any amount of tech, so I'm all for tech. We are all for tech. Okay. But end of the day, we have to remember tech is an enabler. It can never replace human touch. It is all about balancing tech touch and human touch.
Yeah.
And to Shilpi, just to quickly sum it up, I would say we have all heard about this HHH model: the head, the hand, and the heart. All I would like to say today, let us focus a lot more on heart. We have talked about it, but I'm sorry to say, in this corporate world, everything we talked about it, but it was more of a lip service. But today it's becoming a lot more prominent, and it will become a lot more prominent in the days to come. So I would like to end it. I know as we have limited time, we have to go to others also. All I would like to say, as leaders, we have focused enough on head and hand. I'm not saying those are not important. We have to continue focusing on that. Along with that, focus a lot more on the heart part of it.
No, absolutely. And very well said, Dr. Chandrama, that a lot of focus on heart and heart driven leadership, really a lot heard in the last couple of years and in future as well. When it comes to people, it's all about the heart and the leadership from the heart. So very well said. And that brings me to really thinking forward, right? That what kind of culture, and I'd like to bring Thiru into the conversation at this point, what kind of culture in an organization is required that will make people thrive? Like Dr. Chandrama is talking about leading with the heart. How do you see culture playing a role in the organization to really enable this entire ecosystem of operating virtually?
Great question, Shilpi. Now, let's be very honest. There wasn't a silver bullet that anyone could shoot in the last 2 years. There
So,
wasn't the right or wrong answer. People needed to figure this one out.
yeah,
New leaders emerged. People sitting on seats didn't necessarily show leadership. True test of leadership, really shows up at the time of adversity. However, at the end of the day, your questions on culture, you know, it all begins with, purpose. What are the value systems in your organization? And are those translating into behaviors on the ground? So in my view, I would say purpose plus values plus behaviors sort of, lead to a culture. In the last 2 years, when you say leading without seeing or supervision, it's grounded on a few anchors in my view. First one is trust. People didn't see each other for 2 years. Am I being, there's so much of anxiety in our workforce. Am I being valued for the work that I do? I haven't seen my boss or my colleagues or friends. How do they know that I'm working? At the end of the year, will I be assessed? Will I be assessed fairly? Because I used to just walk by, have a chat, stay in touch. The belongingness to the team, where
yeah,
I belong, and where is the pride of the work that I do? Because pride is always collective. You being alone, working remote, it's very hard. So trust is a big anchor point, and I think leaders needed to intentionally work on that trust. Second, I mean, we did talk about compassion, and it's in my view a notch above empathy. People truly needed to show compassion during these times. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. Work invaded our homes, but I think right now, as people start to come back to work, life will invade work. And I think all our organizations will need to think about how we make space for life
yeah.
when things get back to work, to be reciprocating of the new reality. Third anchor, I think, is technology. Chandrima talked about a balance there and leading with the heart. I mean, practically speaking, in the last 2 years, employees never could walk down the corridor and have an HR partner or a colleague to ask questions. There wasn't a human being. Therefore, it was highly imperative for organizations to invest in digital solutions. I know various organizations are in a different level of sophistication in their journey to digitize and introduce cloud and AI in the way they work. But you cannot lead remotely unless you have technology to enable the culture you want to set. Managers will have to be able to make decisions on their own without depending on an HR colleague, for which they need data. And there's so much of data. performance data, job role data, skills data, market data, compensation data, all of that. It's impossible now, and in my view, archaic to merge and look up spreadsheets to deliver insight. You got to have a mechanism, and preferably AI powered, that can make that lots of data into a meaningful insight that is highly personal, curated, and relevant for that team and that individual, which is served out in a platter to the manager, who can then make the right decisions. And that needs to be self served because the world changed. There wasn't anyone around to ask. So I think technology is a huge player in enabling the culture you want to
Yeah.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the future as we move ahead.
And I'd love to, Thiru, come back to understanding a little bit more about the technology play in driving the culture a little later. But I'd like to invite Shri into the conversation at this point. Shri, welcome. And just picking up from what Thiru was speaking about, creating a framework or speaking about people, a lot of anxiety in people, how would they get measured, etc. In your experience and looking into the future, what are some of the major changes you have witnessed, and what do you see as the org frameworks, be it in terms of people capability, be it in terms of the overall org frameworks? How do you see the future of organization this world standing out to?
Hey, thanks. First of all, uh, thanks for inviting an excellent topic. When I read this topic, leading without supervision and leading without seeing, I was laughing, and it's a really interesting caption. But I think prior to COVID itself, in a global environment, I, as a leader, was leading without much supervision to my team. And also, I led teams for 2, 3 years, even without seeing them. But I have a contrary philosophy. Today, I see them more often than I could see them before COVID. Because of the technology we have today, I meet my team every day through WhatsApp video calls and LinkedIn video calls, and as well as Skype, and you name it, all video calls. So I feel nothing has changed, at least for me as a leader. I continue to do, but I can see more people today than ever before since I led global teams. And I continue to lead them without supervising much, by inspiring them, by giving permission to play to them, by giving confidence and competency, and giving a culture that you can fail, it's okay, and we can learn from them. So I have a little difference of opinion on COVID. Doesn't allow us to see people, or since you can't see, you can't supervise them. Since leadership is
Yeah.
it's not a title, it's a presence, where people should feel leadership omnipresent in the organization. The second one, before I get into technology side of it, there's a better question in EY. We call that, what separated us can unite us. So I feel last 2, 3 years, COVID has physically separated us. I'm just looking at the chat box here. Many people said hi. I've not seen them last 3 years. But I feel, although I've not seen them, I'm more emotionally connected with them than ever before. When COVID wave 1, 2, I used to get calls, Sri, are you okay? Hope your family is doing well. I heard that your friend is not sick. So COVID has physically separated us, but mentally and emotionally got it together. So I see COVID only accelerated certain technology to adopt and go forward with that. So the first and foremost thing, what happened in the talent, capability, and management is, I'll take two examples in terms of performance and what do you call it as capability building in terms of talent. One, today our performance management system is more purpose driven than ever before. So now COVID has made all of us to think, can I have a performance with a purpose? So I can go and talk about how the performance management has changed over a period of time in terms of technology, force ranking, and everything. But I personally feel today a purpose-driven performance is important. Organization who can help employees to define their personal purpose, connect with the work purpose and organizational purpose, and drive performance through that is going to be successful. And many organizations started using technology to define employees' purpose and allow through technology identify platforms where organization can really realize this performance. That's one example. Second example, I take it in terms of skill development and career development for employees. Organizations is shifting the responsibility more to employees. In EY, we call a concept called it is yours to build it. I cannot build it for you. You can build it a personalized career for you depending on your aspiration. But I have tools, I have methods, and I can give it's yours to build it. The ownership is giving back to employees, and all our technology solutions, including AI, is helping employees through mass personalization or customer grade experiences. The moment you touch any HR application, recognize you, and it recognizes your last transaction, recognize your passion, you recognize your purpose. So that's the kind of a thing. Last one, interest of time. I strongly feel the work tech and HR tech is merging in a very nice way. The work tech is the remote working. We use it either Teams or whatever the technology uses it. That's a work tech, isn't it? Instead of physical working, you're virtually working using a work tech. And talent tech is right from workforce planning to demand management to recruitment to onboarding to compensation training. So the work tech and talent tech is merging beautifully, and with the concept of a full stack of data, digital layer, and experience layer coming beautifully. So I want to be sensitive on time. I think it's a great opportunity. COVID has brought us together and made us to think more heart than more with the head.
Absolutely.
And I think how do you drive a purpose-driven performance culture is the key of today's.
Absolutely. So very purpose driven and an employee self-led, self-driven career and ownership enabled by technology is what you're bringing to the fold. And um, again, that makes me think that there is a role and an evolution that HR will shape into, and the journey that the role of HR will shift into. And Thiru, coming back to you on this thought that Shri is leading me into, how do you see the role of HR professionals evolving in future? You spoke about technology a little bit, so if you could show some light on how are you foreseeing the role of HR evolving from here?
Shri had some great points of view. Each, I guess, different industries will have a different perspective of how they engage in the operating model. I'll take an example on experience. In any industry, we all focused on employee experience and engagement as an example. Think about it this way: the last best experience that you have encountered anywhere in the world becomes the minimum expectation for every transaction that you want to see in the future. Now, that's the world we live in, because then every transaction you relate to, it worked this way in the banking industry, or this worked in the telecom industry. Why can't it work for me in a simple HR transaction? So when you start to look at that level of benchmarking in how we operate and execute, administer in HR process methods and tools, it has to be influenced with technology, significant empowerment. As HR professionals, again, last 2 years has been extraordinary. We've been soaking up all the emotions across the board. And we've seen, at least in our industry, we've seen extraordinary growth in the last couple of years. So it's been a phenomenally perfect storm for everyone to bring out their best, because the organization looks to you to lead.
Yeah.
So the role of the HR professional has always been up there and elevated, but I think very now visible, very pronounced, and very relevant for today. HR professionals, speaking to the way we work in IBM, again, we are a small group that back above, they punch above their weight, because we lead with managers. And when you have technology enablers, you play more of a advisory role. You try to automate mundane tasks, so you feel good about the contribution that you actually deliver to your leaders as you grow your business. I do feel the role of the HR colleague regardless whether you're in a functional role or you're in a business partnering role or in a labor relations role, um, is one of you can't work alone. You have to be able to partner with technology, with colleagues as a team. So coming back for the future, when people come back to work, I don't think it'll go back into how we worked together 2-3 years ago. We'll have to build on the strides we've made in the last couple of years.
Shilpi, one thing I would add to Thiru, I strongly believe in my 30 years of talent or a career in HR. I always ask my team, what's the business of HR? And the answer is business of HR is business. You can calculate any number of metrics under that, but how do you drive revenue growth, margin improvement, customer satisfaction through employee? Second question I ask, whose business is HR? I think it's everyone's business, employee, counselors, managers. We cannot blame HR for attrition. We cannot blame, it's everybody. The last one I started off, at least War for Talent, last 9 months asking, what's the business of business? And I got answer, today's business of business is HR.
Yeah.
Because they have humongous demand sitting, but they are not able to fulfill because of lack of hiring, high attrition and everything. So we are in a better place than ever before to
Yes.
drive business values and create greater employee experience and drive customer experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Chandrama, after hearing so many thoughts around leadership and leading into the future, um, this is probably my last question to kind of sum up the thoughts together, and then we also have a few questions on the chat box. I'd like to go there. But how do we equip? How do we equip the leaders with the capabilities that are required, and everybody is articulating them really well? Any thoughts around that?
So I would like to quickly put in my thought because I'm sensitive about the time also. So Thiru and Sri have talked about a lot about the technology enabling part of it, which is extremely, extremely important. And we need to develop, if you look at the 3H, which we talked about, the head and the heart and the hand, we need to develop capabilities all across, no doubt about it. Okay. Something like critical thinking. Okay, something like ambiguity tolerance is much more important than what it was before. But I would like to come back to a very basic thing. For some organizations working remotely, hybrid way, global team, it's very normal. They have done it for many years. For some other industry, it's not so common, right? So at this point in time, we need to enable leaders, and I don't mean HR leaders, I mean all people managers. There's nothing got HR to do with this. How to virtually replicate a physical workspace with personal touch.
Yeah.
Okay. Be it with technology, be it getting in touch with the person, whatever it needs. So what I'm trying to say is that when we are there mostly connected virtually, it's all the more required to be available for the person. How will the team work? The common themes of the team, how do we establish trust in the team, the common ways of working together. So I will talk about something very basic. Purposely, I'm not talking about technology because Thiru and Sri have talked a lot about technology. What I want to mean is that very simple thing. When I'm holding a meeting, I've seen many leaders, the technology is an enabler, and there's a tick mark, very mechanical activity. I'm saying something different. I'm saying, am I creating space for that person in my group who is not comfortable speaking? Okay. Some people think, act, think. Other people act, think, act. Some people take time, to come out. Am I creating as a leader? Have I been trained? Have I been sensitized to create that space? Am I careful about talking less and listening more to people? Am I appreciating people a lot more? I don't think so. We do a good job in appreciating people. Common simple things like, in physical workspace, over a cup of coffee, we have brainstorming, we have, the quick exchange of thoughts. Those micro chats are very, very important. Calling up people without agenda, just to bring a message that I'm there for you, I'm thinking of you. That's very important. So just to summarize the whole thing, today, again, I'm focusing on the last H part of it, the heart part of it. We need leaders who are much more self-aware. Unless you're aware about self, you can never be aware, be with the other person. The need to be is much more. You need to be a lot more inclusive as a leader, because not only We will have people from different parts of the country. We will have gig workers, different other kinds of workers. We need to be inclusive. We need to be adaptable. And we need to do an exceptionally different job in managing people. We need to give our best as a leader, authentic, compassionate, all things we have talked about. We need to give our best to get best from the team. And
Yeah.
we need to train people in this space. We need to sensitize. Not enough has been done. The way we have done, train people in the so-called the hard part of it, we need to sensitize people a lot more in this space.
Yeah, and I love the passion with which you're speaking about this, Dr. Chandrima. So thank you for that. But I see a question in the chat box, which is very similar, but it'll help if you could summarize on this question, Dr. Chandrima. What are the specific competencies one need to hone to lead effectively in hybrid or work from home work structure? This is a question by Mr. Amit Arun
Okay.
from
So
JPM.
I will quickly say that there are, again, I'm coming back to, there are need for, okay, couple of things. Critical thinking is becoming a lot more important what it was before. Ambiguity tolerance, change management, because today it's all about change, and we need to quickly come back and manage the situation. Okay, as leaders, my own self-awareness. We talked about EQ for many years. Now it is much more important than it was ever before. Okay, so the people management part of it is becoming extremely important, which I've talked about already, and definitely digital dexterity. Each and every person must be high on digital dexterity. It's not an issue for organizations, they are high on tech, IT companies or high on tech, whatever. But I'm talking about, keeping in mind various kinds of clients I work with. Okay, mid-sized organization, manufacturing organization, in different spaces. Each and every person must be digitally dexterous. Digital dexterity must be developed across the organization. So again, summing up, it's a balance between the tech touch and the human touch. Tech will be, tomorrow is all about tech, no doubt about it. But we cannot forget, end of the day, we work for people, we work with people.
Yeah, I think, Shilpi, I had one point here. I agree with Chandrima. But before that, we need to really acknowledge why leadership competency is required in virtual world. There are 4 or 5 things are changing. If you don't acknowledge and pay attention to that, developing competency without context is not good. One is the workplace is changing. Today, workplace is virtual, working from anywhere, anytime, and any task. So you need to be really sensitive to that. Then the definition of worker also changing. Thanks to automation and elimination of jobs, the definition of worker is changing. And the third one is the concept of work itself is changing. As I mentioned, the transactional work is moving away. Judgmental works are coming in play. And the next one is the wellness. The concept of wellness is changing. Unless you acknowledge that, you cannot. Again, I agree with you. The emotional part of it, as well as the high tech and high touch. I'm a strong believer. Today, high tech is enabling high touch. I never can reach out to hundreds of people working in 100 countries without high tech. So how do you make high tech a high touch also? And embedded in this, today the technology have the capability to really analyze the emotions and everything. So let's not separate high tech and high touch are two different things. It's one. And when you have high tech, that you also have capability to highly touch people through mass personalization and customer grade experiences. Okay.
Shilpi, I can add two other points which are, I think, pertinent on traits to sustain, which we didn't necessarily talk about here, is inclusion. When you have a distributed workforce everywhere in the world, the leader has to be inclusive. You'll have your ones that are quiet, the ones that are vocal, the ones that are visible, the ones that are not. I think it's an extremely important trait, in hybrid work. Make sure everybody is included. The second thing I'm going to say, and I think Sri talked about it, is always have a positive mindset with the emotional strength. You could be really damn good at what you do, but that's on a professional point of view. But if you don't have that resiliency and the emotional strength, which organizations in the past necessarily didn't think as a competence, you're not going to be able to drive a high performance organization. So I think increasingly that's coming up in terms of the priority list. The last thing I'm going to say is you got to be very, very grounded self-aware, to unlearn what you learned, to know that you don't know what you don't know. So all leaders will be have to be very open-minded to adapt to new learning, new experiences, fail and learn from each other. These are general, true leadership traits which I think the world has taught us in the last couple of years.
Thiru, one quick comment on your inclusion. I fully agree with you, but what I learned in last 2 years is how do you move from inclusion to sense of belonging. That means how do you give a feeling that this place, whatever the company, IBM or whatever you're talking about, belongs to me and I belongs to this place. Yeah, that's a kind of a challenge. And the third one, moving from inclusion to sense of belongingness, is social equity. A lot of things happening around is very disturbing. Every day our distance is separated by many classes and religion and thought process around us. So we need to be extra careful. How do you create a social equity? I've seen one picture, a tall person, short person, everybody's watching football match. But if you say that I'll provide them equal platform, they cannot. The short person requires little lift. You have to give him a bench to stand on. So how do you create inclusive organization and also create social equity to get everybody perform at the same or a better level?
Okay.
So that's going to be challenging in coming days. Yeah.
Inclusivity is the future, Thiru, I just touched upon that so nicely, you elaborated that. Not only people from different parts of the globe, it's the gig workers, freelancers. We have to got to work with everybody. The work and the workplace and the workforce is changing forever. So my capability as a leader to include all for high performance is something very, very important. Nicely touched upon that.
Good, all very, very thought-provoking points here. One last question I'll take up. It's a question by Ms. Prachi. Leading without supervision. She's asking, I see this as an opportunity to develop self-managed teams in the organization wherever possible. So my question is, are organizations considering this? And I open it up to any one of you who feel
Yeah.
to respond.
Maybe I'll take that. I strongly recommend all of you to read a fantastic book called Agility Shift by Pam Mayer. It's a case study of beautiful things, how organizations are moving from waterfall to agile ways of methodology.
Have we lost Shri?
Some problem at his end.
Sure. If he comes back, if any one of you, Dr. Chandrama,
Yeah. So maybe I come back. Sorry. So organizations are moving from waterfall to agile ways of methodology. Agility have four dimensions. It is adaptability, it is resilience, foresightness, and learning agility. So when you look at, if you want to create self-managed team, the concept of leadership need to change, and leaders need to focus on three C's. One is how can we build competence in the team, and how can ensure that the team continue to learn and build required competency to perform the task. So that's the first C. We call skilling, reskilling, upskilling, whatever it may be. The second one is capacity. Like Sachin Tendulkar have the competency to bat, but can he really play matches after matches after? It's a sprint. It's long sprint. How do you bring capacity? So leader's job is to build competence in the team and build capacity in the team so that they are ready to really play a long game and keep on rising the bar. And the last one is the confidence. The third C is the confidence. Leader's job is to build confidence in the team. It's okay to fail. I will not punish you for failure as long as you learn from that. And we give the confidence to the team saying that we are ready to experiment and all of you have a what do you call it, as a place to play in the team. That kind of a confidence, how can the leader brings it? Then the last one is, as I mentioned earlier, once you have competency, capacity, and confidence, give employees permission to play
Yeah.
performance and excellence, and give the permission. Don't ask for permission. Give the permission to play. That's the secret of success. And that book's beautifully articulate with a lot of case studies how leaders and organizations build this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are almost at the end of the time here. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you. And the way I heard some things are very, very clear. The world ahead is virtual, is hybrid. We need to walk the path. We need to really, I see a lot of fine balance between the head and the heart that we need to walk together, between people connect and the tech connect. All of it very finely, walking it together, enabled by technology. And I really liked one thing that stood out for me in the conversation as a takeaway, that how do we replicate virtuality with a personal connect, enabled by technology alongside. So I really like to sum it up, saying that. But thank you so much for this very engaging conversation today. I'm sure a lot of thoughts have been provoked. A lot of further thinking will happen around that, and we'll take a lot of stuff back from this conversation. So thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Shloka, over to you.
Thank you so much. We would like to take the privilege to thank Dr. Chandrama, Mr. Nagarajan, Mr. Shrikant, and Ms. Shilpi to conduct such an incredible session. We have definitely witnessed and added a lot more in our knowledge basket today. Thank you for saving your valuable time to be here with us. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks to
everyone.
all of you. Thank you.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so before moving forward, we would like to know from the audience how you have felt the first half of our day one of the national conference by doing an emoji blast. Can I see an emoji blast from our beautiful audience today? That's superb. I think our audience have definitely enjoyed the first half of our day one of the National Conference 2022. So with this, we come to an end of the first half. We would like to take the opportunity to thank our strategic partners, our platinum sponsor being ONGC, our silver sponsor being XOXO Daily, JSW, and White Crow Research, our associate partners ICICI Bank, Indian Oil, NTPC, Mahindra Rise, World at Work India, and Balmer Lorries Limited. Our knowledge partner being Mercer, and our communication and design partner being Fulki. We thank all the sponsors for their contribution in making this grand event happen. Now, we would be resuming our sessions at 2 p.m., and I'm sure you all are excited to witness what unfolds in the second half of the day. So, humble request to everyone to join back at 2 and not miss any splendid sessions at a meta scale. Stay tuned. Thank you.